Welcome to Strip Cover Lit. I'm Adrian Fort, and we are here for a quickie of American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis. So what is it? American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis is his third novel. It is 399 pages in its standard print, and it is the story of Patrick Bateman, a 26-year-old Wall Street something, as he descends further and further into the existence that he has built in a world he has inherited. Three quotes from American Psycho. This from page 297. On the seal's tank, the plaque warns, coins can kill. If swallowed, coins can lodge in an animal's stomach and cause ulcers, infections, and death. Do not throw coins in the pool. So what do? I toss a handful of change into the tank when none of the zookeepers are watching. It's not the seals I hate, it's the audience's enjoyment of them that bothers me. This from 302. Silence. Arctic, frigid, utter silence. The light burning over us in the apartment is cold and electric. Standing there, I look at Tori, then the other girl, Tiffany, who looks queasy. I finally say something, stumbling over my own words. I don't care whether you've led a decent life or not. And this from page 376. There is an idea of Patrick Bateman, some kind of abstraction, but there is no real me, only an entity, something illusory. And though I can hide my cold gaze and you can shake my hand and feel flesh gripping yours, and maybe you can even sense our lifestyles are probably comparable, I simply am not there. Sell it with a sentence. Remember when you were a kid and the fork you were holding looked perfect for that light socket? That experience is this experience for readers. The three best things about this novel. One, this is a true type of art. You aren't told what you should think, you are only told what happens. Two, literary fiction is about characters over plot. Rarely through all of my travels as a reader have I felt a character as completely and wholly as you feel Pat Bateman in this novel. And three, T.S. Eliot said, only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. I don't think this novel answers that question, but it sure shores up the mystery quite a bit. The three worst things about this novel. It does seem to lack a bit of focus, even if most of that waywardness is for function. Two, speaking of waywardness, it seems possible to almost spot the exact moment where this novel actually finds itself, which is page 46 and 47 with the business card exchange. And three, one thing drastically lacking in this novel is any real sense of suspense. Now, three themes or literary qualities. One, the idea of predator is king. The idea of a Wall Streeter as king is simple enough. You extremely rich and powerful, have people working for you, etc., etc. And one of the first strange things that we see Bateman do is a scene where he masturbates to the song "The Lion Sleeps Tonight," this linking kingship to a predatory nature and his predation to sexuality. Later, a woman on the Sally Winters show claims to be Lamb Chop, and it is directly after this woman claims to be Lamb Chop that Bateman reflects on the fact that he's wearing crocodile skin shoes, or loafers. And he also wears houndstooth. Now all of these things point to the predator, right? He who hunts. Two, American Psycho as the Great Gatsby. First, Patrick Bateman, often referred to as the boy next door, is sold in this novel in an indirect way, sort of as the everyman, as terrifying as that is. And that translates him also as being the main character to Nick Carraway. Tim Price is Tom, the overbearing, hypermasculine best friend from the start. Evelyn and Courtney are Daisy and Jordan in that they are both beautiful, both interchangeable, and both often comatose. Nick Montgomery is a Southern man with mysterious wealth, and people always talk about him, just like Jay Gatsby. This novel is a reflection of the 1980s, much like Gatsby was a reflection of the 1920s, both going so far in pop culture as to revel in the popular music of the day. Also, both novels are heavily East Coast driven and about money men, and both novels involve a heavy dose of anti-Semitism. And 3, I think American Psycho is a necessary place to defend literary fiction. Literature with a capital L, if you will. Gloria Steinem rallied hard against this novel and had her supporters. Many places in the world, this book is still forced to be sold with a black plastic cover. And many people have a guttural reaction to this text. Most of those people have not read the book. A negative guttural reaction to the text, and most of those people have not read the book. The worst actions you can imagine all happen in this book. Basically, everything uttered or performed by the protagonist is completely contemptible. And they all happen, all of these things happen and or are said without remorse. This does not mean that they are endorsed by the author. Simply that they were written to be read by adults, moral agents of their own bearing. Why? Because intellectuals don't give a good goddamn about your moralization, and they do not have to. 3 questions for further discussion. The big and obvious question is how much of this actually happened. There is, through the course of this novel, and admittedly so by our hero, Patrick Bateman, much delusional activity, but just how much of that activity is delusional. 2, Patrick Bateman, masturbation. Is this coincidental? I do not know. I don't know how I came to that revelation, but I did. Don't ask questions, just answer them. 3, what happens to Timothy Price during the meat of the novel? He disappears, and while he's gone, Bateman becomes unhinged. Did he go to Arizona? Did he go to rehab? Or is he even real at all? Is perhaps Tim Price a controlling mechanism in Bateman's own psychology, right? He does seem to be more classically and more hyper-masculine than Bateman, almost to the point where he could be seen as a father figure, making Bateman question his own masculinity. And it's when Daddy comes back that Bateman begins to behave again. And it was not until Tim Price left that things really went off the rails. 3 recommendations based on American Psycho. 1 by the same author. Less Than Zero provides a similar soulless type of read as American Psycho. If you liked the themes and ideas raised in this novel, Less Than Zero is a similar, perhaps toned down ride. Of the same genre, if we're classifying American Psycho as literary fiction, which I think it's almost impossible not to, maybe shock fiction if anything else, then I think you almost have to, you owe it to yourself, rather, to read this in correlation with The Great Gatsby and just sort of make comparisons between the texts. And one with a common theme, the third with a common theme, I am going with Sarah Cole, A Type of Love Story by Russell Banks. And if you have read that short story, this might not seem completely fair at the onset, but I think it's, let me read the opening paragraph to Sarah Cole, A Type of Love Story. To begin, then, there is a scene in which I am the man and my friend Sarah Cole is the woman. I don't mind describing it now because I'm a decade older and don't look the same now as I did then, and Sarah is dead. This is to say, on hearing this story, you might think me vain if I looked the same now as I did then, because I must tell you I was extremely handsome then. And if Sarah were not dead, you'd think I was cruel, for I must tell you that Sarah was very homely. In fact, she was the homeliest woman I had ever known. Personally, I mean. I've seen a few women who were more unattractive than Sarah, but they were clearly freaks of nature, or had been badly injured, or had been victimized by some grotesque, disfiguring disease. Sarah, however, was quite normal, and I knew her well, because for 3.5 months we were lovers. And finally, a rating for American Psycho. I would give this novel 95 nail guns out of 100. So, if you have read American Psycho, I'd like to know your answers for those 3 questions, or at least one of those questions below. If you like this sort of thing, we look forward to bringing you more quickies in the future, as well as all of the series that we do here on Strip Cover Lit.